It was just before midnight in Zurich on March 26, 2024. A Chinese man named Hao Zhang sits at a Baccarat table, watching the dealer shuffle 8 decks of cards. He doesn't look nervous. He doesn't even look focused. When the cards are dealt, he pushes forward a bet worth thousands of francs without hesitation. And then he wins. A few minutes later, he does it again. Same bet, same confidence, same result. To everyone watching, it looks like luck, a hot streak, maybe a rich tourist getting carried away. But there's one problem. This man isn't guessing. He already knows what's about to happen. Less than 24 hours earlier, he was working in a textile factory in Italy, stitching clothes for hours straight, earning just enough to get by. Now he's sitting inside the largest casino in Switzerland, winning money with a level of precision that doesn't make sense. And he's not alone. There are 11 of them inside that casino, spread across the floor, talking, moving, watching, all part of the same plan. A plan that already worked in other countries and was about to pull in nearly $200,000 in a single night. For a moment, everything goes perfectly, until they make one decision that turns this from the perfect casino scam into a complete disaster. This is the true story of a group of Chinese textile workers who beat Europe's biggest casino and almost got away with it. The drive from Prato to Zurich takes about 6 hours. You can cross the Alps through the Gotthard Pass, winding past glacial valleys and villages with names that sound like they belong in fairy tales. The 11 made this journey in late March 2024, crossing the border in Chiasso in northern Italy. They traveled in small groups, some by car, some by train. They didn't want to attract attention. Prato is a small city in Tuscany, about 16 miles northwest of Florence. For centuries, it was known for wool. Medieval merchants built fortunes there, processing fleece into fine fabrics. The city has a modern textile museum celebrating this heritage, housed in a former factory, filled with exhibits of historical fabric art. By the 1990s, the wool trade had collapsed. Young Italians moved to Milan and Rome. The factories sat empty. Then, the Chinese arrived. Most came from Wenzhou, a coastal city in Zhejiang province with a long tradition of textile manufacturing. They rented the abandoned warehouses. They brought in sewing machines. Within a decade, Prato had transformed into the largest fast fashion hub in Europe. Over 4,400 Chinese-owned garment companies now operate in the province. Nearly 30,000 workers, many of them undocumented, stitch clothes that will eventually carry the label Made in Italy. The conditions aren't good. In 2013, 7 Chinese workers died in a factory fire. They had been sleeping in plasterboard cubicles between the sewing machines. Investigations revealed that 90% of Chinese factories in the area were violating labor, tax, or safety laws. Workers earned as little as 70 cents per shirt, sometimes stitching 70 shirts a day, sometimes earning 1,500 euros a month if they worked fast enough and long enough and didn't complain. This is where the Chinese 11 came from. Not professional criminals, not Ocean's 11, textile workers who heard about a trick. A simple trick involving a phone, a deck of cards, and a game that Chinese gamblers have played for centuries. Punto Banco is a variant of Baccarat. It is the dominant game in Macau and extremely popular with Chinese gamblers worldwide. The rules are simple. 2 hands are dealt. The punto, player, and the banco, banker. Each hand receives 2 cards, sometimes 3. Whoever gets closest to 9 wins. Tens and face cards count as 0. If your cards total more than 9, you drop the first digit. A 7 and a 6 make 13, which counts as 3. Players bet on which hand will win. They can bet on punto, banco, or a tie. The house edge is low, around 1% on banker bets. This makes Baccarat attractive to high rollers who want to gamble large sums without giving away too much to the casino. But here's the thing about Baccarat that makes it different from blackjack. In blackjack, player decisions affect which cards come out. In Baccarat, everything is automatic. The dealer follows fixed rules. Once the cards are shuffled and placed in the shoe, the outcome of every single hand in the shoe is already determined. If you could somehow know the order of the cards before they were dealt, you would know the result of every hand in advance. The cut card scam exploits exactly this vulnerability. It originated in Macau sometime in the early 2010s. A group of 7 Chinese nationals used it to win $3 million before they were caught. The method spread. By 2024, organized teams were hitting casinos across Asia, Europe, and the United States. The World Game Protection Conference would later rank it as the #1 casino scam of the year. The mechanics are elegant. In Baccarat, after the dealer shuffles the 8 decks, a player is invited to cut the cards. The player inserts a colored plastic card into the stack to mark where the decks should be split. This is a ritual, a courtesy. Casinos do it because superstitious gamblers believe it brings luck. What the casinos do not realize is that during the cut, a skilled operator can fan the cards for a fraction of a second, just enough to expose the corner indices of 20, 30, maybe 40 cards. A camera hidden in a sleeve, a cufflink, or beneath a pile of Baccarat scorecards captures the sequence. The footage is transmitted to an accomplice outside the casino who reviews the video, memorizes the card order, and relays betting instructions back to the table through hidden earpieces. The early versions of the scam used cameras wired to storage devices. The cutter would leave the table after cutting, review the footage privately, then return. Newer versions stream the video in real time. Some teams have been known to use software that automatically converts the filmed card sequence into a text string, which is then read aloud to players through nearly invisible earpieces. The house edge in Baccarat is about 1%. With advanced knowledge of the cards, the player edge can exceed 15%. On high-stakes bets, this advantage compounds rapidly. Swiss casino Zurich sits on Gessner Allee, a quiet street beside the Seal River in the center of the city. Zurich is the financial capital of Switzerland. Banks, insurance companies, wealth management firms. The city has a reputation for discretion. Money moves through here quietly, and people do not ask too many questions about where it came from. The casino building does not look like much from the outside. Rectangular, modern, anonymous. You could walk past it without knowing what was inside. But step through the doors, and the atmosphere changes. Inside, it is the largest casino in Switzerland. 3,000 square meters of gaming floor, 400 slot machines, 26 table games including roulette, blackjack, and punto banco. An escalator bathed in golden light carries visitors from the entrance to the gaming tables on the plush second floor. The minimum bet at the punto banco table is 2 Swiss francs. There is no posted maximum. High rollers can negotiate limits with management. The entrance fee is 10 francs after 7 in the evening. Smart casual dress is expected. On March 26, 2024, 11 Chinese nationals arrived at Swiss casinos Zurich. They did not come together. They filtered in throughout the day, alone or in pairs. They dressed inconspicuously. They played roulette. They played blackjack. They chatted at the bar. They behaved like tourists. Around 10 in the evening, one of them approached a staff member and asked if they could play punto banco. The casino was happy to oblige. Baccarat players tend to bet big, Chinese players especially. The table opened. The game began normally. The group played for small stakes, a few hundred francs here and there. They laughed and joked with the dealer. They were friendly, relaxed, having a good time. Just tourists enjoying a night out in Zurich. The dealer had no reason to suspect anything. In punto banco, the house supplies the cards. 8 standard decks are shuffled together and placed in a dealing shoe. A plastic cut card is inserted near the end to signal when the shoe is almost exhausted. Before the cards go into the shoe, a player is invited to cut the deck. It's a ritual. an old tradition. Casinos do it because superstitious gamblers believe their touch brings luck. It makes them feel involved, in control. When the shoe needed to be refilled, the dealer shuffled the 8 decks and offered a player the chance to cut. Tony accepted. What happened next took less than a second. The player had asked the dealer to hold the deck with his left hand during the cut. Just a superstitious quirk, he explained. Chinese gamblers are famous for their superstitions. The dealer complied. As the player inserted the cut card, he fanned the deck slightly. A tampered phone hidden beneath a stack of Baccarat scorecards on the table filmed the exposed card corners. While this was happening, other members of the group bombarded the dealer and nearby staff with questions and requests. A coordinated distraction. By the time anyone could have noticed what was happening at the cut, it was already over. The cards went into the shoe. The game resumed. The player who had cut the cards stepped away from the table. In a private corner, he reviewed the footage, memorized the sequence, and then he returned. Now the stakes changed. One player suddenly began betting 5,000 Swiss francs per hand, about $6,500 at the time. He had been wagering a few hundred francs earlier. No one thought much of it. Baccarat players are volatile. They chase streaks. They believe in luck. He won. The others followed, hoping to share in his hot streak. They won too. 4 or 5 hands later, the betting dropped again. They played a little longer at lower stakes. Then they cashed out. The total? Nearly 180,000 Swiss francs, about $175,000. They collected their chips, converted them to cash, and walked out the front door into the Zurich night. At Swiss Casino Zurich, any large win automatically triggers a review of the security footage. The surveillance team began examining the Punto Banco session. Something didn't feel right. They started with a hand-by-hand analysis. Who bet what, when, how much? They cross-referenced the betting patterns with the card outcomes. The correlation was suspicious. These players had not just been lucky. They had bet big precisely when they should have bet big. They had bet small when the outcome was uncertain. The surveillance manager, Savasoma, dug deeper. He pulled footage from earlier in the day, earlier in the week. What he found confirmed his suspicions. Members of his group had been visiting the casino for weeks before the big night. They had wandered the floor, checked the positions of the security cameras, scouted the layout. Some had been there just 2 days earlier. Then he found the cut. Frame by frame, he watched the player fan the cards. He saw the phone hidden under the scorecards. He understood exactly what had happened. The police were notified. The casino prepared to wait. If these people had scouted before the job, maybe they would come back after. On March 28, 2024, 2 days after the heist, the Chinese 11 returned to Swiss Casino Zurich. They wanted to play Punto Banco again. This time, the police were waiting. The group went through their routine. They filtered in separately. They played other games. They drifted toward the Baccarat table. The dealer shuffled. A player volunteered to cut. As he fanned the cards and the hidden phone began recording, security moved in. All 11 were arrested. In Zurich investigative circles, the case quickly earned a nickname, Chinese 11. The reference to Ocean's 11 was obvious. George Clooney, Brad Pitt, Julia Roberts, a glamorous Hollywood heist with men in tailored suits planning an elaborate scheme to rob 3 Las Vegas casinos simultaneously. But there was a difference. These 11 were not suave professional thieves. They were garment workers from the sweatshops of Prato. The ringleader was a man named Tian Chang, known in the group as Tony. He was the one who knew the trick, the one whose phone contained the evidence that would unravel everything. The others included Hao Zhang and 9 additional accomplices, both men and women. Most knew each other only loosely. What connected them was the textile industry. They worked in the same factories, lived in the same cramped apartments, heard the same rumors about a way out. Data retrieved from Tony's phone revealed that the Zurich job was not their first. The The same group, or variations of it, had already executed the cut card scam in France and Austria. They had crossed borders, hit casinos, collected winnings, and moved on. Zurich was supposed to be another stop on the circuit. The 11 were held in pretrial detention. Sentences varied. Hao Zhang received 4 months suspended and was ordered to pay 14,000 francs in compensation. Others received similar penalties. Detention periods ranged from 41 to 105 days. In the end, all 11 received suspended sentences for fraud. None went to prison. The casino recovered most of the stolen money. Not all of it. Some had already been spent or transferred. A German-language documentary called How to Cheat a Casino covered the case in the summer of 2024. The filmmakers interviewed Markus Jost, the casino manager at Swiss Casino Zurich. They asked him about the Chinese 11. They asked if he held a grudging respect for what they had done. When I later understood everything, including the roles of the individual perpetrators, Jost said, I have to say, they really gave it a good effort. In March 2025, the surveillance team at Swiss Casino Zurich received an award at the World Game Protection Conference in Las Vegas. The conference is held every year at a casino resort. Surveillance professionals from around the world gather to share intelligence on cheating methods, compare notes, and vote on the top scams of the year. The cut card scam was named the #1 casino scam of 2024. Saba Soma accepted the award and presented the Chinese 11 case to the assembled crowd. It was a scam that took place all over the world, said WGPC founder Willie Allison. Large, organized gangs hit casinos using the cut card scam. Now, we don't worry about them coming from overseas. We have domestic teams. He was right. In the United States, a similar ring hit at least 10 casinos across 5 states between July 2023 and March 2024. Indiana, Pennsylvania, Mississippi, New York, California. They stole more than $1.5 million. The Hard Rock Casino in northern Indiana alone lost $700,000 in a single week. Security footage showed the same pattern: a phone hidden under scorecards, cards fanned during the cut, suspiciously timed bets. 6 men were eventually charged. Warrants have been issued. Most remain at large. Back in Prato, the textile factories continue to operate. Chinese mafia groups have moved in, fighting for control of the logistics industry. A man named Zhang Dayong, alleged to be a crime boss, was shot 6 times on a Rome sidewalk in 2024. The prosecutor has warned that Chinese organized crime has become a huge operation that extends beyond Italy into France and Spain. Workers still stitch clothes for 12 hours a day. The Chinese community still numbers in the tens of thousands, most living in the gray zone between legal and illegal, documented and undocumented. Some are paying off debts to the smugglers who brought them to Europe. Some are sending money back to the families in Wenzhou. Some are just trying to survive until the next paycheck. The cut card scam still works. Casinos have tightened procedures around the shuffle and cut. Some now use automated shuffling machines. Some have banned players from even touching the deck. But the vulnerability remains. As long as Baccarat follows fixed rules, as long as the order of the cards determines the outcome of every hand in the shoe, someone will find a way to peek. The Chinese 11 went back to their lives. Suspended sentences, no prison time, most of the money returned. A few thousand francs in fines. The biggest casino scam in Swiss history ended with a documentary interview and a handshake. In the sweatshops of Prato, seamstresses still talk about the trick, the one that worked in France, the one that worked in Austria, the one that almost worked in Zurich, until they got greedy and went back for more.